Right, the AV system. Yes, the AV system is really important to us because it's the only way we can get a fair vote for everybody, and that every person then votes, because a lot of people feel disenfranchised because they can't vote for the party they really like. So what you can do with AV is you can vote for your first priority, and if they don't get in, your second priority will then count towards one of the other candidates, so you can make one of two choices. The AV system will help us actually break the party system whereby safe seats, the same Tory or the same Labour guy gets in years and years after year. And this makes for a very lazy political system where some of the MPs don't try very hard. And what we want is people to be out there, politicians, actually working to get you to vote for them. And I think that's a really positive thing about the AV if we can bring it in. So please vote yes for AV.
So can I explain the AV system and how will I vote personally on May the 5th? To me, the current system in politics within government is the same. We have problems within the current council where we have the power in the few and the many don't get a look in. My view therefore is there needs a change in our way we run things in the country. So the AV system at least gives the ability for people's real preferences and real choices to come to the fore rather than to be dominated by political parties. So if you're into giving more people a voice, the AV system will do that. Personally, I think it's got fraught with some weaknesses because you can end up with your fifth choice actually becoming in power, and it has weaknesses. And I would personally want to have the current system changed and parties working together. And if you work together, it wouldn't matter if it's first past the post or second, we'd work together. So at this moment in time, I think the AV system is really dangerous. So I'd probably vote for the first past the post at the moment, and then work at trying to change that rather than just having a weaker system in afterwards.
The trouble with politics and politicians is expected to have an answer, a pat answer on every subject. And I have to say, out and about, canvassing, campaigning this mayoral election, people are not talking about the alternative vote system, the referendum. Although, of course, the mayoral election is a very crude form of alternative vote. People can put their first and second preference, so if the candidate who doesn't do very well to begin with is your choice, your vote isn't wasted and you can transfer your vote to one of the stronger placed candidates. The mayoral system, number 1 or number 2, if you voted for 3 or 4, your vote can transfer. Quite what the difference is, I don't know. At the last mayoral election, I picked up the greatest number of first preferences, and I also picked up a substantial number of second preferences, so my lead widened. I think it makes it for a nicer contest because you're trying to get the second preferences from the other candidates, so no one goes around rubbishing any of the other candidates if they're sensible. You want to try and hoover up as many second preferences if you're confident you're going to be first or second. So maybe it improves behaviour, but in terms of political outcomes, how it would shape up Parliament, what difference it would make in a mayoral election in the Bay, we don't really know. We don't actually have the evidence. Until you know exactly what the difference would make, I'm not sure that I have a hugely strong view. So there we go, and politicians saying, I guess on balance I probably would support in the referendum the alternative vote, so that people whose votes would otherwise not be counted do at least get a chance to express a preference between front-running candidates, so when it gets to Parliament more MPs actually have a majority of people in their area supporting them. But it is not proportional representation, it's absolutely not something I would go to the stake on. So a sort of limp support, a modest yes in favour rather than a great heroic speech for or against. But in the mayoral system for Torbay, it is a very crude form of alternative vote. I'll be very happy to have your first preferences, very happy to have your second preferences.
Instead of
having a first past the post system, what AV does is to give you an opportunity to rank all of the candidates in preferential order, so that the bottom candidate falls out and then their votes get reallocated. And the key to AV is that the winner always ensures that they have more than 50% of the vote. So from that point of view, AV is said to be a fairer system. It ensures that the candidate gets that 50% mark. A year ago I would have been no hesitation to support it, no hesitation at all. I'm wobbling now because I've seen the way in which this coalition has worked, and I'm concerned about what that could lead for the future. I think I probably will still vote yes through gritted teeth, because I think this is the only opportunity I'm ever likely to get in my lifetime to change the voting system. So that's how important this vote is. So consider it very carefully. I think I'll probably just about vote yes.
The AV is running alongside local elections, and it is a national issue, and therefore I have no opinion to give. As I'm standing for mayor, I think it only complicates the issue if I start talking about AV to the electorate. I'm standing as mayor for the local authority for Torbay, and I'm not going to get involved in the AV issue.
On May the 5th, you will not only be voting to elect your new mayor, also your new councillors, but whether or not you wish to partake in the referendum on the AV voting. It is far too complex to explain here, but at the end of the day, I basically feel that we should leave it exactly as it is, as has been for quite some time. Why meddle with it?
With regard to AV, this is a complicated system, and I think that's where some of the issues lie. Some aspects of it really do sound quite appealing, smaller parties actually having a voice. For example, the Greens. The downside though is it could open the door for groups such as the BNP. If it weren't for that, I would support it. But because of that danger, I'm going to stay with one person, one vote.
The alternative vote system is something that we'll be voting for on the 5th of May this year. It's not a fully proportional representation of how votes are cast in this country, and not ultimately what the Green Party wants, but it's a step in the right direction. It helps to get rid of tactical voting, and you put your vote in for more than one choice, and the first choices are added up, and if a particular candidate isn't in the lead after the first round, they're subsequently added up, second, third, fourth choices, etc., until one candidate has more than 50% of the vote. The current system we've got, first past the post, doesn't truly reflect proportionally the percentage of people that vote for that particular candidate, and hopefully the AV system will go some way to remedying that and give us a fairer system of elections in this country. But ultimately it's not what the Green Party want. The Green Party are after proportional representation, and we will still be working towards that. But we recommend that people vote for the AV system on the 5th of May.
AV, I prefer no to AV. I prefer first past the post. If you've got a good horse and it wins past the post, that's the one to back. That's the one I back. In Ireland, only a couple of weeks ago, you had 13 votes and it took 5 days to get a result. That's not good for democracy. It's vastly expensive. Stick to what people can understand. First past the post, the best man or woman to win. That's what I believe in.